Before we get into this video, I just want to say if you are under the age of 18, please click out of this video. YouTube is a very impressionable place, especially for underage people, and this video has a very sensitive topic that we're exploring. So please do not watch this video if you're under 18, and if you are over 18 and if you are comfortable with talking about psychedelics, then feel free to keep on watching. Hi groovy people! So today I am in nature. I'm embracing my fairy self. I'm actually in my boyfriend's yard and it's a cloudy day, but it's a good day to film, I think, out here. If you haven't already gathered from the title, we're going to be talking about a special substance. Well, it's a special kind of mushroom that people take both recreationally and medicinally. It's kind of very hard to say what I'm talking about without having YouTube kind of go crazy on me, but we're going to be talking about special mushrooms. Not the kind that you eat. Well, they are the kind that you eat, but not the kind that you eat in a stew or, you know, on a hamburger or something like that. The kind that you eat to experience some freaky deaky things. So yes, today I'm going to be talking about an experience I had with special mushrooms, a very good experience I had with special mushrooms. But before we get into this video, I really do want to say that I am in no way condoning the use of this substance. It is still an illegal substance, so please keep that in mind. It is, although very beneficial in many ways, and we can talk about that in another video, it can be also very negative for some people, and even for some veteran mushroom eaters, you know what I mean? Like, there is such a thing as a bad experience, a bad trip. I don't want to encourage people to take this substance. It can go very wrong very quickly, and it's a serious thing, and it's not to be played around with. I took it once. By me saying that, that's not me telling you to take it once. I'm just kind of explaining what I did, okay? And this video is really just for educational and entertainment purposes, and it's really just to start a conversation with you all. If you're interested in my experience, keep on watching. If you're not, you don't have to watch this video. And if you do decide to keep on watching and you do decide to comment down below, just try your best to keep it as positive as possible, because this is a no judgment zone, okay? I also want to say that I was inspired to do this video because I watched the Netflix film Have a Good Trip: Adventures in Psychedelics. It's really funny. I really recommend it if you are over the age of 18 and you're okay with hearing stories about psychedelics. It's really quite hilarious. They did a really good job with it. It's basically a bunch of like celebrities and comedians, especially comedians, basically just telling their stories about taking certain psychedelic substances, kind of like what I'm going to do right now. So if you enjoy this video, definitely check that out. You're definitely gonna like it. So I think we should just get into the story. This story is basically like the first time I actually took a special mushroom. This was actually about a year ago. It was October of 2019. So my boyfriend and I decided to go to Woodstock, New York for his birthday. And if you guys don't know, Woodstock, New York is not where they held Woodstock, the music festival. It was actually done in Bethel, but it was originally supposed to be done in Woodstock. It's kind of a long story, but basically, although Woodstock wasn't held in Woodstock, Woodstock, New York very much embraces the whole Woodstock era. There's a lot of artists, there's a lot of musicians, there's a lot of older hippies that ended up, I don't know, coming into money, I guess. You go to that little village and you feel like you're at Woodstock, the music festival, you know? So we went for his birthday and he decided to bring special mushrooms with us. So we decided to like make a day out of it, because you kind of have to like set aside a whole day for it. And I want to say, if you do decide to take this substance, okay, which I'm not telling you to, but if you do decide, do it with somebody that you absolutely trust, number one, and number two, set aside a whole day for it, okay? Because it will be hours long. And try not to like have yourself stranded. And I would also say like try to do it in the daytime, because if you need help or anything like that, you know, things may be closed in the nighttime. Just giving you some tips, okay? Anyway, we decided to make like a day out of it, and we decided to go to the woods, which I'd recommend only because you should kind of immerse yourself in nature when you take this, because it does very much connect you back to your roots as a natural being, I guess. But I also don't recommend it because you may get lost in the woods, you may freak out, which you'll hear a little bit about later. But anyway, so we decided to make a day out of it in the woods, and it's the Catskills, Woodstock, New York. So there's a lot of mountains, there's woods. What is it called? I think it's called the Overlook Mountain Wild Forest, which we went to. And there's actually a meadow that's like inside the forest. It's called Magic Meadow. So funny. It's just so stereotypical hippie. I love it. And we decided like we'd go have the special mushrooms, and then we'd go into the forest kind of a thing. You kind of have to like eat something with the mushroom, otherwise it just tastes very gross. So we went to this health food store, and it's really cool actually. They had this machine. It was a grinder, I guess, and you put peanuts in it, and then you like hand grind your peanut butter. It's just so cool. So we were like, oh, this is gonna be great because we can mix the mushroom in the peanut butter. So we were making the peanut butter, and then we ended up going to the forest. So we went onto the trail, and we kind of like stopped like 10 minutes in, and we took them. It doesn't hit you right away. It hits you like about, I would say 30 minutes, 45 minutes after you take it. We just kept on walking in the woods, and we were walking toward Magic Meadow because we really wanted to be at Magic Meadow when we started tripping. We hit Magic Meadow. I think it was about 30 minutes after we took the mushrooms. At this point, Chase is like, I don't know, he's feeling a little nauseous, and apparently that's how he knows he's starting to feel it or whatever. I didn't feel anything at the time, and I was kind of like confused because I was like, I'm only 100 pounds, like how am I not feeling anything? I guess I just have to wait a little bit longer, because you don't want to, here's another tip, okay? You don't want to take more because you're not feeling it, because the second you take more, you're gonna feel the first dosage, okay? Anyway, we were walking in Magic Meadow. We were approached by these two Romanian people, and it's funny because I'm Romanian, and I don't usually meet Romanians very easily. It was a brother and his sister, but they were older. The Romanians kind of like hung around with us for a while. There was like this area where I guess you can make a fire, so there's like logs like kind of in a circle, and they were kind of like sitting there. We couldn't really like shake them off. So we went like further into the woods a little bit. We kind of like left the meadow, but we were like right outside the meadow. I was just like sitting there like watching these two strangers converse with each other and sit together, and I was like, what am I doing right now? Why am I watching these people from afar? And it wasn't even that far away, so they probably thought I was a whack job. They ended up leaving. At that point, like literally right when they left, is when I started feeling different. There was something with my eyes, I remember. Like, I felt like my eyes were changing, if that makes any sense. I think my boyfriend even said, your eyes are getting smaller, like the pupils. And I was like, really? We were like in that little outskirt area of the meadow, and when they left, we decided to go sit where they were sitting. I was a little bit paranoid at the very beginning because I'd never felt anything like that before, right? It was just a new experience, so I was a little nervous that I was going to freak out, or like I was just not going to have a good time. But when we were sitting down, the anxiety started to like fade away. I remember just sitting there, and I was looking at the trees, and the trees were kind of like swaying, but not from the wind kind of a sway. They were like dancing, and I was like, whoa, that's trippy. And then I'm with my boyfriend, so I look over and I look at him, and I swear to God, I looked at him, and I wasn't looking at my boyfriend. I was looking at my boyfriend's soul. And that sounds so weird. I looked at him, and I wasn't seeing his body. I was seeing his energy. His face wasn't the face that I knew. It was the face of his spirit. It sounds so crazy saying it, especially without being under the influence right now. It makes sense when you feel it, you know what I mean? It makes sense when you're on that substance, but it doesn't make sense when you're sober, you know? It doesn't make sense when you're straight. I looked at him and I saw, it was like a mix between a little boy and like an elf almost, and actually a woman. You know those like Snapchat filters where you can like change your gender, like your face? If I were to do it, it would make me look like a man. It looked like that somewhat, but he looked youthful and innocent and in a way feminine, but I don't really want to use the word feminine because I don't want it to be misconstrued as effeminate. It was just looking at somebody's purest form kind of a thing. In the moment I was saying, this is his soul, and I'm looking at right now, and I'm in a way seeing kind of like his past selves in this face, all wrapped up in one. In those few seconds, I saw all his lives almost. It's crazy, I know, but it's the truth. Just like seeing that was so powerful that I started crying. And I didn't know why. I couldn't tell you in that moment why I was crying, and I can't tell you now why I was crying, but I didn't even have to move my face to cry. It was just like tears coming down for no reason. Without any effort, the tears just kind of fell down. And I remember he was like, "Why are you crying?" I just couldn't say anything because I was just enamored by the whole thing. And he said, "It's because you love me, right?" And I was like, yeah. That was just, it was so cool. Apparently he kind of felt the same way, like when he was looking at me, he was seeing my energy and my soul, my spirit. But I don't want to really talk for him because he should say what he felt. I shouldn't say that for him. But anyway, so that moment happened, and then I remember I was just like, I just kept on looking at the trees and the way they moved. So in the meadow you can see the mountain and you could see all the trees on the mountains. And I remember looking at the trees, and I remember like almost like seeing faces in the trees, and it was almost like I looked at the trees and the trees were human bodies. The closest thing to it, and I remember saying this while I was seeing it too, was like watching the Eleanor Rigby sequence in Yellow Submarine, the film. In that sequence there's a lot of like inanimate objects that are like human, or you know, there's like faces on like inanimate objects, or it's almost like very collage-y, and I was kind of seeing collages in the trees. Like I knew that they were trees, but I kind of like saw shapes of faces within them, but I knew that they were products of my imagination. It's so hard to explain in words because it's not supposed to be explained in words, you know what I mean? I think we sat there for about 20 minutes or so, and then we said that we wanted to try to find our way out of the woods. I think we left the way we came, and we ended up getting lost, I remember. This is why I don't recommend being in the woods, especially in woods that you don't know and you're not familiar with, because for a split second I was kind of getting a little nervous that we were going to be stuck in the woods, and it was starting to get dark too. We ended up finding our way out, but I remember on our way out it felt like so long. When you take this substance, time just kind of feels so much different than what it actually feels like. I remember like trekking through the woods, and I just remember it was so long. It just felt so long. My limbs, they just felt so heavy. Like I was just kind of like moving these like stump limbs as I was walking along, and I just, even my head too, I was just kind of like, almost like a zombie, like just kind of like doing this as I was walking. We ended up finding our way out of the woods, thank God. And funny enough, there was a Buddhist temple at the entrance of the trail. And my boyfriend turns to me and says, "Let's go into the Buddhist temple campus." There's like an archway that leads like onto the campus, and it's kind of like a tan thing, and I remember looking at it, and at this point I was really feeling this mushroom. I mean, I'm looking at the arch, and the arch is just kind of like doing this, like I'm seeing swirls where I shouldn't be seeing swirls. I'm seeing things elongating and shrinking, like both at the same time, and I'm saying, I don't know if this is a good idea that we're going onto this campus, and I'm so high. But we go in, and Buddhist temples, just on their own, they're so magical and so unreal, even without being under the influence of anything. It's just like one of those moments where I'm like transported into a whole different world. That's kind of like the feeling that these temples kind of give me, at least. Imagine that feeling of like being transported into a new world when you're under the influence of a special mushroom. When things are already like kind of not behaving the way they're supposed to be, and the inanimate objects are kind of moving, living and breathing with you. And now you're like in this new world and you're like,
holy shit, like what the hell am I in right now?
And I'm standing there and I'm thinking that I entered a portal to a different dimension, and I'm also thinking like,
am I in a movie right now? I'm in a movie.
I was not in reality at that point. I was in fantasy. And as we're kind of like walking around, this guy comes up to us and he was like, do you guys need any help? And we were like, no, we're just kind of walking around. We just decided to take a bit of like a walk around the campus. He goes, well, I'm you know, part of the, I guess, the community. If you want, I can give you a tour. And we were like,
sure, give us a tour, why not?
He ends up like giving us this really, really in-depth tour that it kind of is more like in-depth on the Buddhist faith than it is like the grounds that we were on. So he just keeps on like explaining Buddhism to us and like all of the different goddesses and deities. I'm into that, by the way. So like I'm totally enamored by what he's telling me, and I'm like, as he's just explaining everything. And at the same time, I'm thinking to myself, I hope this guy doesn't know that I'm high right now, because I want him to think that I'm actually invested in what he's saying and not just invested in what he's saying because I'm high. I remember he was like talking to us about how authentic the grounds were, and he was pointing to these windows, man, and I was looking at the windows, and I swear to God, the frames of the windows were shaking, like they were like kind of like moving and merging in and out of each other. And I'm just saying,
like, holy shit, man, this is like one of the best feelings I've ever felt.
Everything is just so much more interesting. It's like you can just stare at anything and it'll just do something cool, and you can't help but just stare at it. It's so amusing. Everything is just like,
holy shit, man, like look at the sky, man, look at the trees, man. Look at these windows, man.
Like everything is just so much more captivating. We go inside the temple, and I remember they weren't doing like a mass or like a service or anything like that. They were doing, it was like individual prayer, but they were chanting. I love Buddhist chants. It gives me such ASMR actually. So I'm high, I'm listening to these chants, and I'm saying,
this is really something.
I remember he also like took us in the back room or something. He was showing us these statues. I don't know, I think Chase kind of wanted to like be left alone or something like that. So I think we ended up saying like, let's just leave, right? Let's just go back to our Airbnb. We ended up going back to the Airbnb. At this point, I'm not really like seeing things anymore. I don't know if this is true for every experience with it, but I think that like there's a period where you see things, you hallucinate, right? But then I think at the end of it, when you're like coming off of that period, is the euphoria period. And that's what I felt for the rest of the night. It kind of makes me sad looking back because I haven't felt that happy since it happened. I think that's how people end up abusing substances, is because you feel this amazing feeling, and it's a feeling that you've never felt before. It unlocks this part of your brain, and you can't get it back until you unlock it again with that key, you know? It just makes you love like the little things in life, man. I was taking a shower and I was so happy in that moment. I felt so grateful for hot water on my skin. Felt like so much better than any other shower I've ever taken. And then we ended up going out for dinner, and we went to a restaurant called Joshua's Cafe. It's such a cute little place, and I just remember the happiness was so powerful that I felt like almost like heartburn. I felt like a burning right here, and the burning was my heart just feeling so full and so happy. And I remember I was just like, man, this is just one of my happiest moments in my entire life. We ended up meeting the owner of the restaurant, and her name is Stephanie. She's very, very sweet. And I spoke to her and I said, my goodness, you're the owner, aren't you? Because she was actually waiting at our table. And I recognized her from the restaurant's website. There was a photo on the website of her and her father, and her father was Joshua. I said, oh my goodness, you're the owner. I saw your photo on the website with you and your father. And she started tearing up and she goes, I just lost him, I think it was 6 or 8 months prior. She said, my goodness, that means so much to me that you mentioned that. It's been so hard for me. And it was just like one of those like very special moments where I was connected to a complete stranger, and I was saying like, wow, I had no clue that my comment was going to make a difference to her. That whole day was full of very, very special moments. It's hard to talk about now because I don't know if any of you guys are gonna think that any of it is special or any of it is worth sharing even, but to me it is, and that's why I'm making this video, because I want to share with you a part of me that I find very close to me, which is this experience that I had. I haven't even really spoke about this to my family, my friends. I think that a lot of people are going to watch this video and think that I'm being reckless or irresponsible for sharing this, but I don't think that anybody is reckless or irresponsible for sharing certain taboo things about them. And I don't think what I did was wrong. I really don't. I don't think that me exploring this substance makes me a bad person. I think it helps me connect to being a better person, to be honest with you. But again, I don't think that you need that substance in order to be a good person, in order to be a better person. I really like being vulnerable on this channel with you, and I want to make more videos like this because it really pushes me to put everything on the line. You gotta take risks in your life, I think. I think the scariest things are the things that you should do, to be honest. If you guys have any experiences that you want to share with me, you can share it with me confidentially. You can always message me on Instagram. If you feel up for sharing your story with other people in addition to me, you can always comment down below. And if you don't have an Instagram, you could always email me as well. I'm really trying to make this channel be a community for everybody. And I want everyone to feel like they belong here. So all that's to say, be safe. Don't do, but if you do them in a safe and responsible manner. If you want to talk to me about anything, you totally can. I'm here to listen. And if you'd like to be a part of my little groovy commune that I've created here on YouTube, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you next week. Take care, be safe, be healthy, and be happy as much as you possibly can. Bye-bye!